below, stormtroopers marched through the streets of Göttingen. Their torches burned bright against the winter darkness. They shouted slogans for the new government. Weber pressed his forehead against the cold glass. His wife Rachel was somewhere in that crowd. She taught mathematics at the university. She was Jewish. He'd known her for 12 years. They'd married in 1925. She was brilliant. She made him laugh. She believed in science and reason. Now none of that mattered. Weber grabbed his coat. He ran down the stairs. He pushed through the celebrating crowds. He had to find her. He had to keep her safe. But he was already too late. The world he knew was ending. A new darkness was rising, and Karl Weber couldn't stop it. Not yet. The marriage, 1925. Weber first met Rachel Steinberg at a physics conference in Munich. She was presenting a paper on differential equations. He was researching electromagnetic wave propagation. They argued about mathematics for 3 hours. He fell in love during that argument. She was fierce, uncompromising. She didn't care that he was already published. She destroyed his assumptions with elegant proofs. They married 6 months later. Small ceremony, just friends and family. Her parents didn't approve. His were already dead. They built a life together in Göttingen. Both taught at the university. Both published research. They collaborated on several papers. Their apartment filled with books. Equations covered the walls. They worked late into the night. Coffee and cigarettes and breakthrough moments. Those were the best years of Weber's life. Then, January 1933 arrived, and everything changed. The erosion, 1933 to 1936. The changes came gradually at first. New laws appeared every few months. Jews couldn't hold government positions. Jews couldn't teach at universities. Jews couldn't practice law or medicine. Rachel lost her university job in April 1933. She tried private tutoring. That was banned in 1934. They considered leaving Germany. But where would they go? Every country had immigration quotas, restrictive policies, closed doors. Weber kept his position. He wasn't Jewish. The university needed physicists. The military was rebuilding. Research positions opened up. He took a job with Telefunken in 1935. Defense work, radio systems, good salary. They needed the money. Rachel grew quieter each month. She stopped smiling. She stopped arguing with him. She just sat by the window, watching the street. Weber tried to protect her. He kept her name off lists. He bribed officials. He made himself useful to powerful people. It wasn't enough. The disappearance, March 1936. The Gestapo came on a Tuesday. 2 men in leather coats. They showed papers. They said Rachel had to answer questions. Routine matter. She'd be home by evening. Weber tried to go with her. They refused. He demanded information. They ignored him. Rachel kissed him goodbye. She didn't take a coat. It was cold outside. That was the last time he saw her. Weber waited all day. She didn't return. He called the Gestapo office. Nobody answered. He went there in person. They turned him away. He contacted everyone he knew, every official, every connection, every favor he could call in. Nothing worked. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. Rachel was gone. No trial, no record, no grave. Just emptiness where she used to be. The decision. Weber made his choice in the empty apartment. Her books still lined the shelves. Her handwriting covered old notebooks. Her coffee cup sat unwashed by the sink. He couldn't save her. He couldn't bring her back. He couldn't even bury her properly. But he could fight. Quietly. Carefully. From the inside. He had skills they needed. Physics. Engineering. Radio systems. The military was expanding. War was coming. Weber would help them build their weapons, and then he'd break them. Not dramatically, not obviously, just small errors, tiny miscalculations, microscopic sabotage, death by 1,000 cuts, administered by a grieving physicist. Rachel wouldn't have approved. She believed in direct action, bold resistance, speaking truth. But Rachel was dead, and Weber was still alive. He'd fight his way, with mathematics and silence. Telefunken, 1937 to 1942. Weber rose quickly through Telefunken's research division. He designed improved radio transmitters, more efficient receivers, better antenna systems. His work was brilliant, precise, exactly what the Luftwaffe needed. They promoted him, gave him a team, increased his security clearance. He became indispensable. By 1940, he was supervising radar development, the Liechtenstein project, airborne interception systems, night fighter technology. Weber threw himself into the work. 16-hour days, 7 days a week, no vacations, no social life. Colleagues thought he was dedicated to the Reich. They were wrong. He was dedicated to revenge. He studied every system, memorized every specification, understood every vulnerability. He waited for his moment, prepared for his opportunity, built his cover perfectly. Nobody suspected the quiet major, the brilliant engineer, the loyal party member. Weber was patient. Rachel had taught him patience through years of mathematics, hours of proof-checking. He would wait as long as necessary, the Liechtenstein radar system. The Liechtenstein radar was Germany's secret weapon against British night bombers. Development started in 1940. First operational units deployed in 1942. The system revolutionized night fighting. A transmitter sent radio pulses forward. A receiver caught the reflections. The range appeared on a small screen, glowing green dots in the darkness. Effective range, 4 kilometers. Detection angle, 60 degrees forward. Operating frequency, 490 megahertz. The system required careful tuning. Transmitter power had to match receiver sensitivity. Frequency stability was critical. Antenna alignment had to be perfect. Only highly trained technicians could calibrate the units. Weber was the best. He personally certified every radar before installation. The British lost hundreds of bombers to Liechtenstein-equipped night fighters. The system was devastatingly effective. Until July 1943. Intelligence reports, June 1943. The Abwehr intercepted a British technical memo in late May. It described a new countermeasure program. Code name, Window. Simple concept, aluminum foil strips, cut to specific lengths, dropped from bombers. The strips would create false radar echoes. Hundreds of fake targets. Thousands, maybe millions. German radar operators would be overwhelmed, unable to distinguish real bombers from foil strips. But the system had a critical requirement. The foil length had to match the radar wavelength. Precisely. Any error reduced effectiveness dramatically. The British needed Germany's exact radar frequencies. Without that data, Window wouldn't work. Weber read the report 3 times. His hands stayed steady. His expression remained neutral. He knew the British probably had the frequencies already. Spies, captured equipment, technical intelligence. But he could help them make absolutely certain. Adjust the radars to be maximally vulnerable. 3.2 megahertz. That's all it would take. A tiny shift. Imperceptible in normal operation, but perfectly catastrophic when Window deployed. The plan forms. Weber spent 2 weeks thinking through every detail. He couldn't modify every radar. That would be too obvious, too detectable. But he could adjust the units going to northwestern Germany. The Netherlands, Belgium. Exactly where British bombers approached. 20 to 30 units, spread across multiple squadrons. No obvious pattern, just normal distribution. The modifications had to be subtle, within tolerance ranges, explainable as normal variation. He'd shift the frequency up, not down. The British would probably calculate for the nominal frequency. The upward shift would make window even more effective. Weber would keep false records. The official logs would show standard calibrations. His real notes would stay hidden. If anyone investigated, he'd blame British intelligence. Equipment captures. Frequency measurement. The plan was solid, technically sound, emotionally devastating. He'd be killing German pilots, young men following orders, fighting for their country. But they were protecting a genocidal regime. They were killing Allied aircrews. They enabled the war machine. Weber made his peace with it. As much as anyone could, for Rachel, for justice, for the end of this madness. The work begins July 1st. The first modified radar crossed Weber's bench on July 1st, 1943. Unit number L2743. Destination Schiphol Airfield, Netherlands. Installation date July 5th. Weber worked alone in the sealed calibration room. The door was locked. The ventilation system hummed softly. He powered up the unit, checked the transmitter output, measured the frequency, 490.0 megahertz. Perfect. Then he opened the transmitter case, found the master oscillator, located the frequency adjustment screw. 1/4 turn clockwise. He checked the meter, 493.2 megahertz. Exactly right. Weber closed the case, resealed it, logged the unit as standard calibration, serial number, date, signature. In his hidden notebook, he recorded the truth. Unit L2743, modified July 1st, frequency plus 3.2. The whole process took 10 minutes. It felt like hours. His hands didn't shake. His breathing stayed normal. Years of laboratory work taught perfect control. But his heart pounded. Sweat soaked his shirt. His mouth tasted like copper. He'd just committed treason. High treason, capital offense, torture and execution if caught. Weber returned the unit to storage, signed the transfer paperwork, acted completely normal, 26 more to go. The production line radars flowed through Weber's lab in steady streams. Some days he processed 5 units, some days 10. Each one required careful inspection, thorough testing, complete documentation. Weber modified roughly 1 in every 4 units. No consistent pattern, no predictable sequence, just random distribution. He targeted units going to specific bases: Schiphol, Dielen, Leeuwarden, Venlo, northern approaches to Germany, British bomber routes. Other units went through standard calibration. No modifications. Perfect specifications. The randomness provided cover. If all radars failed, investigation would find him. If only some failed, blame would spread. Weber worked mostly at night. The building emptied after 8. Security guards patrolled, but never entered his lab. He kept 2 coffee thermoses at his desk. Black coffee, strong. It kept him awake through long nights. Each modification took 10 minutes. Documentation took 5. Then the waiting, the fear, the second guessing. He couldn't stop, couldn't turn back. The modified units were already shipping out, installing in fighters, going operational. By July 15th, 20 units had been modified. By July 20th, 27. Then he stopped. Any more would be too risky, too detectable. 27 radars, 7 different squadrons, 3 different bases. Enough to create chaos. Not enough to guarantee detection. Weber closed his hidden notebook. He'd done what he could. Now he waited for the British to act. The intelligence chain. The British had been planning the Hamburg operation for months. Bomber Command wanted to demonstrate strategic bombing's power, show the Americans their capabilities, justify the resources. Hamburg was perfect. Major port city, U-boat construction, industrial center, legitimate military target. And it was within range, 500 miles from English bases, reachable with full bomb loads. The planners knew about window. Development teams had been testing it since early 1943. The strips were simple, aluminum foil, 27 centimeters long, 1.4 centimeters wide, exactly half the wavelength of German radars. Each bomber would carry bundles of strips, thousands of them, dropped throughout the flight, creating a massive cloud of false targets. Wind tunnel tests showed it worked. Small-scale field tests confirmed it. The physics was sound, but they needed the exact German radar frequencies. Without precise data, window would fail. British intelligence had obtained the information months ago. A captured radar unit, technical documents, frequency measurements, 490 megahertz. They were certain. They cut millions of foil strips, exactly 27 centimeters. They packaged them in bundles, distributed them to bomber squadrons. Operation Gomorrah would be Window's first test. 791 bombers, 10 nights of raids. The largest bombing campaign in history. The waiting, July 23rd. Weber couldn't sleep on the night of July 23rd. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to Berlin's nighttime sounds, distant traffic, occasional sirens, the rumble of trains. Tomorrow, or the next day, or the day after that, the British would strike. Intelligence reports all pointed to Hamburg. Reconnaissance flights, radio intercepts, agent reports, everything aligned. The modified radars were in place. Night fighter squadrons were equipped. Pilots were ready. They had no idea their eyes were about to be gouged out. Weber smoked cigarette after cigarette. The ashtray overflowed. His fingers turned yellow, his throat burned. He thought about Rachel. What she'd say if she knew. Would she approve? Would she be horrified? She'd always been practical, ruthless when necessary. She'd argued for boycotts, strikes, direct action. But this, enabling the deaths of thousands, German civilians, women and children. Weber didn't know. He'd never know. She was gone. He stubbed out another cigarette. He checked his clock. 3 a.m, July 24th. Now, soon, it would happen soon, Operation Gomorrah. Begins July 24th. The first bombers took off at 10 p.m. 791 aircraft, mostly Lancasters and Halifaxes. Each carried 8,000 pounds of bombs, mix of high explosive and incendiaries. They flew in streams, tight formations, following bomber stream tactics, overwhelming defenses through concentration. As they crossed the North Sea, crew members opened special packages, the window bundles, thousands of aluminum strips. They began dropping them, handfuls every minute. The strips tumbled through the darkness, caught the wind, spread across miles of sky. On the ground, German radar stations detected the approaching stream. Controllers scrambled night fighter squadrons, Messerschmitt Bf-110S, Junkers Ju-88s. Pilots climbed into the darkness. Their Liechtenstein radars glowed green. They turned toward the incoming bombers. Then their screens exploded. Hundreds of contacts, thousands. The displays became solid masses of light. No individual targets, just overwhelming noise. Controllers tried to vector fighters to intercepts, but the directions made no sense. Targets were everywhere and nowhere. Pilots reported complete blindness, total system failure. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. The bomber stream reached Hamburg at 1:30 a.m. The city's searchlights stabbed upward. Flak batteries opened fire. But without radar guidance, they fired blind. The bombers dropped their loads. Block after block erupted in flames. Incendiaries created firestorms. High explosives shattered buildings. 1,500 people died that first night. The city burned until dawn, and the night fighters circled helplessly, blind, useless, defeated by physics. Weber listens. Weber sat by his radio, tuned to military frequencies, listening to the chaos. Fighter pilots radioed in confusion, panic, anger. Their radars weren't working. Everything was glowing. They couldn't find targets. Ground controllers tried to help, gave vectors based on non-radar observations, searchlight reports, sound detection. Nothing worked. The bomber stream was too dense, too fast, too coordinated. Weber heard a young pilot's voice, terrified, lost. He'd spotted a Lancaster by chance, closed for attack, then lost it in the darkness. Another pilot reported a near collision. His radar showed nothing. Then a bomber appeared directly ahead. He barely missed. The reports continued for hours. Confusion, system failures, desperation. Then the damage reports started coming. From Hamburg. Entire neighborhoods burning. Casualties in the thousands. Fires out of control. Weber turned off the radio. He couldn't listen anymore. He'd done this. His modifications. His sabotage. His revenge. The price was higher than he'd imagined. He sat in darkness, smoking, thinking about Rachel, about Hamburg, about the cost of justice. No answers came, just silence and smoke and guilt. The investigation begins July 25th. Luftwaffe headquarters exploded with fury the next morning. Göring demanded explanations. Generals shouted at each other. Someone had to answer for this disaster. The radar division got called to Berlin. Emergency meeting. All senior personnel, Weber included. He took the train from Telefunken, wore his uniform, carried his briefcase, looked completely calm. Inside, his stomach churned. This was the test, the critical moment. Would they find him? The meeting lasted 4 hours. Generals screamed. Engineers defended themselves. Everyone blamed someone else. Weber spoke carefully. Technically, the radars were working perfectly, he explained. This was obviously a British countermeasure, some kind of jamming system. They must have obtained frequency data, probably from captured equipment, or technical espionage. The British were sophisticated. The jamming was incredibly effective, far beyond anything previously encountered, a major technological breakthrough. Germany needed to respond, develop new countermeasures, change frequencies, improve filtering algorithms. The generals accepted his analysis. He was the expert, the most knowledgeable radar specialist in Germany. They appointed him to lead the investigation, find out exactly what happened, recommend solutions. Weber accepted the assignment. He hid his relief perfectly. The saboteur would investigate his own sabotage. Examining the evidence. Weber spent the next 2 weeks examining every piece of evidence. He visited fighter bases, interviewed pilots, inspected radar units pulled from aircraft. He measured frequencies, tested performance, analyzed failure patterns. Everything pointed to British electronic countermeasures, exactly as he'd predicted. But there was an anomaly in the data. Some radars failed completely. Others maintained partial function. The variation seemed random. No correlation with equipment age, manufacturing batch, installation date. Weber knew the real reason. His modified units failed completely. Standard units had partial effectiveness. But he buried that finding in technical jargon. He blamed tactical factors, window density, atmospheric conditions, pilot experience. His reports were masterpieces of misdirection. Hundreds of pages, dense mathematics, confusing charts. Nobody could follow the details. They trusted his conclusions. Change frequencies, develop new systems, improve training. The investigation closed in mid-August. No sabotage detected. No internal failures found. Just British technical superiority. Recommendation: accelerate development of the Liechtenstein SN2 radar. New frequency band, window-resistant. Weber's cover held perfectly. The human-cost Operation Gomorrah continued for 10 days. The RAF returned again and again. The U.S. 8th Air Force joined in. Hamburg was systematically destroyed. Final toll: 42,600 dead. Mostly civilians. Mostly burned to death in firestorms. Over 1 million people fled the city. 300,000 buildings destroyed. 61% of the city reduced to rubble. It was the most destructive bombing campaign in history. At that point, worse would come later. Weber read the casualty reports. Every day, numbers, statistics. Neighborhoods erased, families annihilated. He'd enabled this, made it possible, opened the sky. The moral mathematics were impossible. How many lives saved by shortening the war? How many lost in the bombing? How many concentration camp victims? How many Allied air crews? How many German civilians? Weber couldn't calculate it. The equations had no solution. He just knew 42,000 people were dead, partially because of him. He carried their names, their faces, their screams, for the rest of his life. The young lieutenant, September. The lieutenant appeared at Weber's lab in early September. 23 years old, blonde hair, blue eyes, scar on his left cheek. Night fighter pilot. He needed a replacement Liechtenstein radar. His unit had burned out during a mission. Electrical fire, complete failure. Weber processed the paperwork. Issued a new unit. This one calibrated correctly. Standard frequency. He'd stopped modifying radars in early August. The British knew about window now. Further sabotage served no purpose. The lieutenant thanked him, then started talking about the Hamburg missions, the helplessness, the fear. His radar had gone blind over the target, just stopped working. Screen full of noise. He'd almost collided with a Lancaster, passed within meters, close enough to see the British gunner's face. His wingman wasn't so lucky. Hit a bomber head-on. Both aircraft exploded, everyone killed instantly. The lieutenant's voice shook. His hands trembled. He was barely holding together. Weber listened, nodded, offered sympathy. Inside, he was screaming, this boy, this kid, traumatized, nearly killed, because of Weber's modifications. Not a war criminal, not a Nazi fanatic, just a young pilot, doing his job, following orders. Weber shook the lieutenant's hand. Wished him luck, sent him back to his squadron. That night, he didn't sleep at all. The new system, October to December. The Liechtenstein SN2 entered production in late 1943. New frequency, 90 megahertz, VHF band instead of UHF. Longer wavelength, different antenna design. Window strips cut for 400. 90 megahertz were useless against 90 megahertz. The British would need completely new countermeasures. German night fighters regained effectiveness. British bomber losses increased. The radar battle continued. Weber transferred to the SN2 development team. Different role. No calibration authority, no access to field units. His opportunity for sabotage ended. His mission was complete. He'd accomplished what he set out to do. Blinded the defenses for 3 critical months. Enabled the destruction of Hamburg. Avenged Rachel, in his own way, with his own methods. The cost haunted him. But the deed was done. Irreversible. Final. Weber threw himself into the new radar project, worked 18-hour days, designed improved circuits, solved technical problems, made himself indispensable again. Nobody suspected him. Nobody questioned his loyalty, his dedication, the perfect mask, the complete deception. 1944, the grinding war. 1944 brought continuous disasters for Germany. The Eastern Front collapsed. The Soviets advanced relentlessly. Army Group Center disintegrated. Hundreds of thousands surrendered. D-Day came in June. The Allies landed in Normandy, broke through, raced across France. Strategic bombing intensified. Berlin, Munich, Dresden, city after city burned. Weber kept working. The radar program. Technical development. Training new engineers. The war was clearly lost. Everyone knew it, but nobody said it. Not out loud, the regime grew more paranoid, more brutal. Traitors everywhere, real and imagined. Weber kept his head down, did his job, stayed invisible. His secret notebook stayed in his jacket lining. The list of modified radars. The evidence of treason. He couldn't destroy it yet. Too risky. People paid attention during wartime, questioned everything. He'd wait. Until the end. Until chaos made anonymity possible. 1945. Collapse. The Reich's final year was agony. Soviet armies surrounded Berlin. American and British forces crossed the Rhine. Germany was crushed between closing pincers. The bombing never stopped. Day and night, around the clock. The cities were ruins, the infrastructure destroyed, food ran out, power failed, water systems broke. Civilization collapsed. Weber stayed in his Berlin apartment. The Telefunken center had evacuated west. Most staff fled. He remained. He had one final task: destroy the evidence, eliminate every trace. April 19, 1945. Soviet artillery shelled the city center. Buildings collapsed. Fires raged everywhere. Weber built a small fire in a metal bucket. On his balcony, feeding it carefully. The notebook went in first. The modified radar list. Serial numbers. Dates. His handwriting. Then personal papers. Letters from Rachel. Photographs. Anything connecting them. Technical documents. Research notes. Everything from Telefunken. The flames consumed it all. Turned 12 years into ash. Weber watched the smoke rise. Join the smoke from burning Berlin, invisible among the ruins. His secret was safe now, hidden in fire and chaos. Nobody would ever know. Soviet occupation, May 1945. Soviet troops entered Weber's neighborhood on May 2nd. They went building to building, searching for soldiers, weapons, Nazi officials. Weber met them calmly, hands visible, no weapons, cooperative. He spoke some Russian, basic scientific vocabulary. He was a physicist, radar specialist, not political, just technical work. The Soviet lieutenant in charge was educated, interested in technology. He questioned Weber carefully. What systems had he worked on? What frequencies? What capabilities? Where was documentation? Weber answered honestly, mostly. The truth served him better than lies. He'd worked on Liechtenstein radars, various models, standard development work, nothing unusual. Documentation was destroyed, burned in the fighting. The Soviets searched his apartment, found nothing incriminating. Just a quiet scientist, living alone, no party membership, no SS connections. They let him stay, made him report weekly, answer questions, provide technical information. Weber cooperated. He had no reason to resist. The war was over. Germany defeated, the regime dead. He'd survived. That was enough. British sector, June 1945. Berlin divided into occupation zones in June. American, British, French, Soviet, 4 powers, 4 sectors. The city carved up. Weber's neighborhood fell in the British sector. He preferred that. He spoke English better than Russian. The British needed technical expertise. German scientists, engineers, people who understood Nazi weapons programs. Weber volunteered his services. He met with British intelligence officers, answered their questions, filled out forms. They checked his background. No Nazi Party membership, no war crimes, just technical work. Radar development. They hired him as a consultant. Small salary, ration card, permission to stay in his apartment. His job: document German radar programs, technical specifications, development history, capabilities and limitations. Weber wrote detailed reports, honest, thorough, comprehensive. He described the Liechtenstein program, the SN2 development, countermeasure efforts, everything except his sabotage. That remained hidden, buried under layers of technical detail, lost in the chaos of defeat. Nobody asked the right questions. Nobody suspected anything unusual. Weber was just another German scientist, helping the victors, staying alive. The final year, 1946. Weber's health declined through 1946. He'd always been thin. Now he became gaunt, hollow-cheeked. His clothes hung loose. The British doctors said stress, malnutrition, years of wartime deprivation. Nothing serious, just age and exhaustion. Weber didn't tell them about the nightmares, the faces, the screams, Hamburg burning, the lieutenant's trembling hands. He worked during the day, writing reports, meeting with British officers, translating documents. At night, he sat alone, smoking, reading, trying not to think. Rachel's ghost haunted every corner. Her books were gone, her possessions lost, but her memory remained. Had he honored her or betrayed her ideals? He'd never know. The modified radars succeeded. Window worked. Hamburg burned. Thousands died. Did it shorten the war? Save lives overall? The mathematics were impossible. Weber stopped trying to calculate it, just accepted the weight, the guilt, the uncertainty. April the 22nd, 1946. Weber woke that morning feeling strange, pressure in his chest, tightness in his left arm, difficulty breathing. He ignored it, made coffee, started his morning routine. The pressure increased, became pain, sharp, crushing, radiating down his arm. Weber sat in his chair, tried to breathe, couldn't call for help. No telephone, nobody nearby. He knew what was happening. Heart attack, myocardial infarction. Probably fatal. He wasn't afraid, just tired, so tired. The pain peaked, his vision blurred, his breathing stopped. Karl Weber died at 9:15 a.m., alone in his apartment, still holding his coffee cup. His landlady found him that afternoon, called the British authorities. They collected the body. His few possessions were catalogued. Scientific papers, some clothing, nothing valuable, nothing suspicious. They buried him 3 days later. Small cemetery, British sector, simple marker, no ceremony, nobody mourned, nobody spoke. Just a brief burial, then he was forgotten. The secret days Weber's sabotage died with him. The evidence was destroyed, burned in April 1945. No notebook, no records, no proof. The modified radars were lost, destroyed in combat, abandoned, scrapped, gone. The statistical anomaly remained in German records. Unexplained variation in radar performance. Some units blind, others partially effective. Historians would puzzle over it later. Proposed theories: atmospheric conditions, tactical factors, equipment variations. Nobody suspected internal sabotage. Why would they? The radar program was exemplary, well run, professionally managed. The idea that one technician could alter dozens of units undetected seemed impossible. So it was dismissed, forgotten, lost to history. Karl Weber's revenge remained invisible. Perfect, complete. Legacy. 60 years later, historians still study the Battle of Hamburg. They analyze Windows' effectiveness, discuss radar countermeasures, examine tactical decisions. The statistical variation in German radar performance is mentioned. Footnotes, technical appendices, minor curiosities. Nobody connects it to sabotage. Nobody suspects. Nobody knows. Weber's name appears occasionally. Technical papers, development reports, personnel lists, just another German engineer, competent, unremarkable, forgettable. His true role remains hidden, encrypted in burned documents, buried with his body. The phantom frequencies are gone, lost to time, irretrievable. History moved on. The secret stayed buried, exactly as Weber intended. Epilogue. The radio waves. Physics says energy never disappears. It transforms, changes form, spreads through space. The radio pulses Weber's modified radars sent still travel, weakening, dispersing, but eternal. They carry information, frequencies, timing, the signature of sabotage. Somewhere in deep space, those signals exist, moving at light speed forever. They passed Mars decades ago, Jupiter, Saturn, left the solar system, entered interstellar space. Alien civilizations might detect them someday, decode them, wonder about their source. They'll never know the story, the grief, the revenge, the cost. Just electromagnetic waves, carrying phantom frequencies, echoing through eternity. The universe remembers what history forgot. Weber's secret travels with those waves, invisible, silent, true. A whisper in the cosmic background. A ghost in the machine. Justice measured in megahertz. Revenge calculated in wavelengths. The phantom frequencies of Major Karl Weber. Forever. Historical note. Operation Gomorrah occurred from July 24th through August 3, 1943. The RAF and USF conducted devastating raids on Hamburg. Over 42,000 civilians died. 61% of the city was destroyed. Window, aluminum foil strips, was first used during these raids. It effectively countered German Liechtenstein radars operating at 490 megahertz. German night fighter effectiveness dropped dramatically. Statistical analysis of German radar performance shows unexplained variations during this period. Some units reported complete blindness. Others maintained partial effectiveness. The variation has never been fully explained in historical literature. The Luftwaffe subsequently developed the Liechtenstein SN2 radar, operating at 90 megahertz. This partially restored night fighter effectiveness against British bombers. Major Karl Weber is a fictional character, but the technology is real, the tactics are real, the tragedy is real, and the possibility of technical sabotage remains historically plausible but unproven. This story explores what could have happened. In the shadows of history, where secrets die with their keepers,